The signature that changed everything. Some marriages begin with love. Others begin with a signature on expensive paper, witnessed by lawyers who smell like leather briefcases and broken dreams. Catalina Reyes held the fountain pen between fingers that wouldn't stop trembling. 23 years old, honey-colored eyes that once held starlight, dark waves of hair falling past her shoulders. She had imagined her wedding day 1,000 times as a little girl, never like this. Never in a conference room that smelled of polished mahogany and her father's desperation. Across the table sat Diego Navarro, 31, carved from ambition and expensive suits. His jaw could cut glass, his eyes the color of midnight storms, his presence filling the room like he owned not just the building but the very air they breathed. He was the youngest CEO in his industry, brilliant and ruthless in equal measure. Right now, those storm-dark eyes skimmed over documents like she was an acquisition, not a person. The lawyer cleared his throat. "Miss Reyes, if you'll sign here." Her hand moved to the paper. This was it. The moment her life split into before and after. 6 weeks ago, her father had knocked on her bedroom door at 2 a.m. Roberto Reyes, a man who built his textile company from nothing, who never showed weakness, stood there with tears streaming down his weathered face. "We're ruined, mija. Everything. The factory, the house, your grandmother's medical bills. I made bad choices, trusted the wrong partners. We have 30 days before bankruptcy." Catalina had held him while he sobbed. Her strong, proud father, reduced to this. Then came the offer. Diego Navarro needed a wife. Not for love, never for love. He needed someone respectable, educated, from a good family, to soften his image. The business world saw him as cold, calculating, difficult to trust. A wife would change that narrative. In exchange, he would erase every debt her family carried. 47 employees would keep their jobs. Her grandmother would keep her home. Her parents wouldn't lose everything they'd built. "Sign here, Miss Reyes." The pen touched paper. Her signature emerged in shaky letters that looked nothing like her usual confident handwriting. Across from her, Diego signed with bold, decisive strokes. No hesitation, no doubt. Just another deal closed. "Congratulations." The lawyer smiled, a smile that held no joy. Diego stood immediately, buttoning his suit jacket. "The ceremony is scheduled for Friday. My assistant will contact you with details. Keep it simple. Immediate family only." His voice was smooth, professional, completely devoid of emotion. He extended his hand. A business handshake. On the day they became engaged, Catalina stared at that hand, broad and strong. A watch that cost more than her father's car glinting on his wrist. She placed her hand in his. The contact lasted 3 seconds. Formal, distant, empty. "I have a meeting in 20 minutes. Diego grabbed his briefcase. "We'll discuss living arrangements later." "Diego." Her voice came out smaller than she intended. He paused at the door, barely turning his head. She wanted to ask so many things. Did he feel anything about this? Did the wrongness of it bother him even slightly? But what emerged was just nothing. Never mind. He left without another word, expensive shoes clicking against marble floors, leaving behind only the scent of his cologne and the hollow echo of her breaking heart. The wedding happened exactly as Diego promised. Quick, quiet, efficient. A judge's office, 20 guests, 45 minutes total. Catalina wore a simple cream dress she bought in a panic the day before. Diego wore another perfect suit. They looked picture perfect to anyone who didn't notice how he never touched her unless required, how her smile never reached her eyes, how they stood with careful distance between them. "You may kiss your bride." Diego turned to her. For just a heartbeat, something flickered in those dark eyes. Regret, doubt. But it vanished so quickly she decided she'd imagined it. The kiss was brief, perfunctory, meant only for the handful of witnesses. It meant nothing. The reception at the Navarro mansion was equally hollow. Champagne, elegant appetizers, polite conversation. Diego spent most of it speaking with his uncle about quarterly projections. Catalina smiled until her face ached, accepted, congratulations that felt like condolences. and tried not to think about what came next. When the guest finally left and darkness fell, Catalina found herself alone in what the housekeeper called your suite. The bedroom was enormous, decorated in soft grays and whites, impersonal as a luxury hotel, beautiful and completely soulless. She sat on the edge of the massive bed in her wedding dress, waiting. Surely Diego would come. Say something. Anything. Even in this loveless arrangement, surely there would be some acknowledgement of what had happened today. Midnight came. Then 1 in the morning. 2. 3. At 4 in the morning, Catalina finally unzipped the cream dress, hung it carefully in the closet, and crawled into bed wearing an old t-shirt. The bed felt enormous, cold, impossibly empty. She curled around a pillow, trying to fill the void beside her. Only then did she let herself cry. Silent sobs that shook her whole body, tears soaking the expensive silk pillowcase. Downstairs, Diego sat in his study, whiskey glass in hand, staring at nothing. He could hear it, even 3 floors down and through countless walls. The sound of his new wife crying herself to sleep on their wedding night. His grip tightened on the glass. Why did guilt twist in his chest? This was a business arrangement. She knew that. She'd signed the papers. Everyone got what they needed. You could at least go say goodnight, a voice in his head whispered. It's her wedding night. Show some basic human decency. He stood, took 3 steps toward the door, then stopped. Getting close was dangerous. Caring was weakness. Emotion complicated things. Better to maintain distance, keep it professional. Remember, this was just a contract. Diego returned to his chair, refilled his glass, and tried to ignore the crushing weight in his chest that felt suspiciously like shame. Neither of them slept that night. And in the morning, the pattern that would define their marriage began. Diego left before dawn. Catalina woke to an empty house. 2 people sharing a space, living separate lives, bound by signatures on paper but connected by nothing else. This was her new reality. This was marriage. Cold, lonely, and breaking her a little more each day. The woman who learned to dance again. 3 months felt like 3 years. Catalina learned the rhythm of the Navarro mansion the way prisoners learn their cells. Wake at 7. Diego's coffee cup already cold in the sink, evidence he'd been and gone hours ago. Breakfast alone at a table meant for 12. The silence so thick she could taste it. The housekeeper, Rosa, was kind. Mid-50s, warm eyes, the type of woman who communicated care through perfectly folded towels and meals that appeared like magic. The master won't be home for dinner, she'd say gently. The same words every night. Business trip, late meeting, conference call with overseas partners. Always something, always absence. Catalina tried everything at first. She woke at 5 to catch him before he left. Made coffee, set out breakfast, wore pretty dresses. But Diego moved through the kitchen like she was furniture, grabbing his travel mug without seeing her, leaving with barely a nod. She planned dinners on the rare evenings Rosa said he'd be home. Wore makeup, styled her hair, prepared conversation topics. But his place at the table remained empty. Another meeting, another emergency, another excuse. After 6 weeks, she stopped trying. What was the point of performing for an audience that never showed up? The loneliness wasn't just absence. It was active, living, breathing. It wrapped around her throat during dinner, squeezed her chest as she lay in bed each night, whispered that she was worthless, invisible, less than nothing. Her own husband couldn't stand to be in the same room with her. Her mother called weakly. "How are you, mija? Are you happy?" Catalina lied through her teeth. "Wonderful, Mama. Diego is so attentive." The words tasted like ash. "Good. Good. You saved us, sweetheart. The factory is running again. Your abuela's medications are covered. You gave our family back its future." The gratitude made it worse somehow. She'd sacrificed herself, yes, but for what? To be a ghost in a mansion? To lie awake every night wondering what was so wrong with her that her own husband fled from her presence? The breaking point came on a Wednesday morning. Catalina stood in front of the bathroom mirror, really looked at herself for the first time in weeks. The woman staring back was a stranger. Hollow cheeks, dull eyes, shoulders hunched like she was carrying stones. When had she become this person? Where had the girl who dreamed and laughed and danced disappeared to? Enough, she whispered to her reflection. If you're going to survive this, you need to live for yourself. The decision wasn't dramatic. No thunder, no revelation, just a tired young woman deciding that if she had to be alone, she'd at least be alone while doing something she loved. That afternoon, she asked Rosa, "Is there a dance studio nearby?" Rosa's face lit up like sunrise. "You dance, Mrs. Navarro?" "I used to. Ballet, contemporary. I was actually quite good before I gave it up for university." Catalina felt something unfamiliar stirring in her chest. Hope, maybe, or at least the memory of hope. "There's Studio Movimiento about 15 minutes from here. My niece takes classes there." The next morning, Catalina walked into Studio Movimiento wearing old leggings she'd dug from the back of her closet. The space smelled like resin and dreams, wood floors worn smooth by countless dancers' feet. Mirrors lined one wall, ballet bars the other. "Help you?" A woman about Catalina's age with short purple hair and kind eyes approached. "I'd like to sign up for classes. Contemporary, if you offer them." "I'm Daniela, I teach contemporary. Have you danced before?" "Years ago. I'm probably terrible now." Daniela grinned. "Only one way to find out." That first class was humbling. Catalina's body had forgotten the language of movement. She stumbled, fell, her muscles screaming at demands they hadn't met in years. But for the first time in months, she felt something other than numb. Pain, yes, but also alive. Present, real. "Not bad," Daniela said afterward, watching Catalina massage her aching calves. "Your body remembers more than you think. Come back Friday." Catalina came back Friday. And Monday. And Wednesday. Within 2 weeks, she was taking classes 4 times a week. Her body began remembering not just the movements, but the joy of them. The way music could tell stories her mouth couldn't. The way dance let her express the rage and sadness and loneliness she carried. She bought new clothes, not the conservative, expensive things she'd been wearing to impress a husband who never looked at her. Bright colors, comfortable fabrics, things that made her feel like herself. A red blouse, yellow sundress, jeans that actually fit, Rosa noticed. "You look beautiful today, Mrs. Navarro. Please." "Rosa, call me Catalina. Mrs. Navarro makes me sound old." She started taking an online course in art history, something she'd always wanted to study, visited galleries on weekends, made friends with other students at the studio. Daniela introduced her to Lucia, a graphic designer with infectious laughter, and Marco, a retired accountant who'd taken up dance at 60. Slowly, Catalina built a life. Not the life she'd imagined, not the marriage she'd hoped for, but something. Her days had purpose beyond waiting for a husband who never came. Her nights had meaning beyond crying into pillows. The pain didn't disappear. Every time she set the table for 2 and ate alone, it hurt. Every time she heard Diego's footsteps in the hallway and watched him walk past her door without pausing, something inside her cracked. Every time Rosa mentioned casually that the master has requested dinner for 8 business associates without including Catalina in the guest count, the rejection burned. But she was learning to carry the pain without letting it destroy her. Like a dancer performs through injury, Catalina was learning to live through heartbreak. 4 months into the marriage, Diego finally saw her. Really saw her. He'd come home early from a canceled trip. The house was quiet except for music drifting from the living room. Piano, something classical. Curious, he followed the sound. The living room had been transformed. Furniture pushed aside, creating open space. And there was Catalina, dancing. She wore simple black leggings and a tank top, feet bare, hair pulled back. But the way she moved stopped Diego's breath. She wasn't just dancing. She was telling a story with her body. Every gesture full of emotion, sadness in the curve of her spine. Rage in a sudden sharp movement. Hope in the way her arms reached upward. Beauty and pain and strength all woven together. She spun, leaped, her body impossibly graceful. Diego had never seen anything like it. Had never seen her like this, alive, powerful, magnificent. The music ended. Catalina held her final pose, breathing hard, eyes closed. When she opened them, she saw him. Shock crossed her face, followed quickly by something harder. Not embarrassment, defiance. "I didn't know you were home." She grabbed a towel. wiping sweat from her face. I didn't know you danced. His voice came out rougher than intended. There are lots of things you don't know about me, Diego, you've never asked. The truth of it hit like a slap. 4 months married and he didn't know her favorite color, her favorite food, her dreams, her fears. Nothing. You're very good. I used to compete, won some regional championships before I quit to study business. She started pushing furniture back into place. Papa needed me to join the company. No time for frivolous things like dance. It doesn't look frivolous, Catalina laughed, sharp and bitter. No, I suppose it doesn't. But families require sacrifices, don't they? Give up dance for the business. Give up freedom for the family. Give up happiness for duty. We do what we must. Every word was an arrow, and each one landed true. Catalina, Don't. She held up a hand. Don't apologize, don't explain. You've made everything very clear these past 4 months. This marriage is a transaction. I'm a line item on a contract. I understand my place. That's not, isn't it? She faced him fully, and he saw tears glittering in her eyes. You can't even stand to be in the same room with me, Diego. Our wedding night, you didn't even say goodnight. 4 months, and you've spoken maybe 50 words to me. I eat every meal alone. I sleep every night alone. I exist in your house like a ghost you're too polite to acknowledge. The pain in her voice made something crack in his chest. I didn't realize. Of course you didn't. You don't see me at all. She moved past him toward the stairs. Your sister's wedding is next month. Rosa mentioned it. I assume you'll need me there to play the loving wife. He'd forgotten about Sophia's wedding. His sister had been planning it for a year, and he'd been so buried in work and avoiding his own marriage that it had slipped his mind entirely. Yes, he said quietly. It would be expected. Fine, I'll smile. I'll be charming. I'll convince everyone we're blissfully happy. Her voice was steady now, emotionless. It's what you're paying for, after all. She climbed the stairs without looking back, leaving Diego standing in the reconfigured living room, feeling like the villain in a story he hadn't realized he was writing. That night, he lay in his bed 3 floors up, staring at the ceiling. He'd told himself for 4 months that distance was necessary, that keeping emotions out of it was smart, that this was just business. But business deals didn't dance with such raw emotion. Business deals didn't have honey-colored eyes that haunted his dreams. Business deals didn't make his chest tight with guilt and longing and something he refused to name. He'd been wrong. So profoundly, terribly wrong. And now the woman he'd married had learned to live without him. Had built walls around her heart that he'd taught her she needed. Diego had created this wasteland between them. The question was whether it was too late to cross it. The dance that changed everything. The weeks before Sophia's wedding crawled by with painful awareness. Diego couldn't unsee Catalina now. She was everywhere and nowhere, a presence he'd ignored for months suddenly impossible to miss. He noticed how she hummed while watering the plants she'd added throughout the house, noticed the books stacked on the living room side table, art, history, and poetry. Noticed how Rosa smiled more when talking to her, how the house felt lighter somehow. He noticed her leaving in workout clothes, returning hours later with flushed cheeks and genuine smiles that disappeared the moment she saw him. Noticed the friends who sometimes came by, laughter floating from the kitchen before going quiet when he appeared. Noticed how she'd built an entire life in his home that he'd been too blind and too cowardly to see. The guilt ate at him. But worse than guilt was the growing realization that his wife, the woman he'd treated as furniture, was extraordinary. Beautiful not just in appearance but in spirit. Strong enough to survive his cruelty and still find joy. Passionate about art and dance and life in ways that made his corporate obsessions feel hollow. He started coming home earlier. Not early enough to actually see her at dinner. His cowardice ran too deep for that. But early enough to find evidence of her presence. A jacket draped over a chair. Books with pages marked. The lingering scent of her perfume. He found himself Googling her name, something he'd never done before. Found photos from her teenage years. A serious young dancer with dreams in her eyes. Found articles about competitions she'd won. Reviews praising her emotional depth and technical skill. Found the exact moment she'd stopped dancing at 18. The same year she'd enrolled in business school. She'd given up something she loved because her family needed her, just like she'd given up her freedom because they needed her again. Sacrifice was in her bones, and he'd taken advantage of it without a second thought. Diego bought her gifts. Expensive ones. A necklace from Cartier, a limited edition book on modern art, concert tickets. He left them outside her door with notes that felt inadequate. Thought you might like this. For the woman who dances. Thank you for coming to Sophia's wedding. The gifts disappeared inside, but she never mentioned them. No thank you, no acknowledgement. She'd learned from him the art of pretending someone didn't exist. Sophia's wedding approached like a reckoning. His sister called constantly with reminders. You and Catalina are sitting at the head table, obviously. Make sure you look happy, Diego. Everyone's dying to see the mysterious wife you've been hiding. He'd been hiding her. From his family, from his world, from himself. The Thursday before the wedding, Diego did something he hadn't done in years. He canceled meetings, cleared his schedule, and at 6 in the evening he knocked on Catalina's bedroom door. Long silence. Then, come in. She was sitting at the desk by the window, laptop open, presumably working on one of her online courses. She'd changed since coming home from dance class. Comfortable clothes, damp hair pulled into a messy knot. No makeup. Still beautiful enough to make his chest ache. I wanted to discuss this weekend, he started, feeling awkward in a way boardrooms never made him feel. I'll be ready at whatever time you need. Rosa showed me the dress you had sent. It's beautiful. Her tone was polite, distant, perfectly cordial. The tone you'd use with a business acquaintance. That's not what I wanted to talk about. Diego stepped further into the room. He'd never been inside before. It surprised him. She'd made it hers. Photos of her family on the dresser, plants on every surface, art prints on the walls, books stacked everywhere. I wanted to apologize. That got her attention. She turned in her chair, eyebrows raised. Apologize? For everything. These past 4 months I've treated you terribly. You deserved better. Deserve better. The words felt clumsy, but he pushed through. You were right. I've pretended you don't exist. Made you invisible in your own home. It was cruel, and I'm sorry. Catalina studied him for a long moment. Why now? Because I saw you dancing, and I realized I've been blind. You saw me dance, and suddenly I'm worthy of basic human decency. Anger flashed in her eyes. I've been here the whole time. Diego. I've been here eating alone, sleeping alone, trying to figure out what I did wrong that made my own husband unable to look at me. You did nothing wrong. He moved closer. This is all me. My issues, my fear, my cowardice. Fear of what? I'm not exactly threatening. Fear of caring. The admission came out rough. My parents had a terrible marriage. Constant fighting, manipulation, using emotions as weapons. My father worked himself to death partly to escape my mother. I swore I'd never let anyone have that kind of power over me. No messy emotions, no vulnerability, just clean business arrangements. Catalina's expression softened slightly, but her voice stayed sharp. So you thought treating me like I don't exist would protect you? Congratulations, Diego. You've successfully made sure I'll never have power over you. You've also successfully destroyed any chance this marriage could be anything but miserable. I know. I was wrong. I'm asking if there's any way to fix it. She laughed, sad and tired. Fix it? How do you fix 4 months of rejection? How do you fix making someone feel so worthless they cried themselves to sleep every night? How do you fix loneliness so deep it physically hurt? Each word was deserved. He took them without flinching. I don't know, but I want to try, if you'll let me. Why? Because Sophia's wedding is this weekend and you need a convincing performance? No, because I've been an idiot. Because watching you dance made me realize I married someone incredible and was too stupid to see it. Because you deserve better than what I've given you. Catalina stood, walking to the window. The setting sun painted her in gold light. You hurt me, Diego. Deeply. I don't know if I can trust you not to do it again. I understand. I'll prove myself. However long it takes. She turned back to him. This weekend I'll play the perfect wife. We'll convince everyone we're happy. But after that, we need to decide what this marriage actually is. If it's just a contract, fine. We can live separate lives under the same roof. But if you want something more, you have to actually show up. No more hiding in work. No more treating me like I'm invisible. Real conversations. Real presence. Real effort. I can do that, can you? Because talk is easy, Diego. Actually doing it is harder. Watch me. They stared at each other across the room. Something fragile and uncertain hung between them. Not trust, not yet, but maybe the possibility of it. I should finish this coursework, Catalina said finally. We leave early Saturday. Right. Diego moved toward the door, then paused. That dance, the one I saw. What was it about? She hesitated. It was about a woman trapped in a cage of gold. Beautiful prison, still a prison. His heart clenched. And at the end, when you reached up. She was deciding whether to accept the cage or break free. I haven't figured out the ending yet. I hope she breaks free, Diego said softly. She deserves to. He left before she could respond, but he heard her voice, barely a whisper. So do you. Saturday arrived with perfect weather and maximum anxiety. The drive to Sophia's wedding venue took 3 hours. Catalina sat beside him in the car, wearing the midnight blue dress he'd chosen. She looked stunning, elegant and composed, every inch the society wife he'd requested. But her hands trembled slightly when she thought he wasn't looking. This mattered to her, he realized. Performing well, making a good impression, not embarrassing him. Even after everything, she still cared about fulfilling her part of their bargain. You look beautiful, he said as they pulled up to the estate. Thank you. You look nice too. Polite strangers. 4 months of marriage reduced to pleasant formalities. Sophia's wedding was elegant and joyful. His sister glowed in her white dress, her groom looking at her like she hung the moon. That's what marriage should look like, Diego thought. Not contracts and cold distance. Joy and partnership and love. The reception was in a garden lit with thousands of fairy lights. Catalina played her part perfectly. She smiled at his relatives, made charming conversation with his business associates, laughed at jokes, touched his arm at appropriate moments. To everyone watching, they looked like newlyweds still in the honeymoon phase. But Diego felt the tension in her body when he placed his hand on her back, saw how her smile never quite reached her eyes, noticed how she found excuses to put distance between them whenever possible. Your wife is lovely, his Uncle Ramon commented during dinner. Where have you been hiding her? Just letting her settle into married life, Diego replied smoothly. Smart. Give her time before exposing her to this circus of a family. Ramon laughed. How are you two enjoying newlywed life? It's been an adjustment, Catalina said before Diego could answer. But we're learning about each other every day. The diplomatic answer deflected further questions. But Diego heard the truth underneath. They were strangers learning to coexist, nothing more. The dancing started after dinner. Traditional songs that got the older generation on the floor first, then modern music that drew in everyone else. Diego and Catalina stayed seated watching. Would you like to dance? He asked finally. Catalina looked at him with surprise. You dance? Not well, but it seems expected. Right, expected. Something closed off in her expression. Of course, they moved to the dance floor. A slow song was playing, requiring them to hold each other. Diego placed one hand on Catalina's waist, took her hand with the other. She was stiff in his arms, holding herself carefully apart. They swayed in awkward silence. Around them, other couples laughed and whispered. Sophia and her new husband danced past, completely wrapped up in each other. Diego felt the contrast like a knife. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For all of it. Catalina didn't look at him. You've apologized already, I mean it. Seeing all these happy people, seeing what marriage should be, I robbed us of that chance. We robbed ourselves. I agreed to this arrangement too. You agreed because you had no choice. I had all the power and I abused it. Finally, she met his eyes. Yes, you did. And apologies don't erase 4 months of loneliness, Diego. They don't make me forget how small you made me feel. I know, but I want to do better. Starting now. Not for show, not for everyone watching. For real. Why should I believe you? Before he could answer, someone cut in. Mind if I steal your wife for one dance? Diego turned to find Marcus Vargas, his main business competitor. Tall, handsome, charming in ways Diego had never managed. They'd been rivals since university, always competing for the same contracts, same clients, same victories. Actually, Diego started. I'd love to, Catalina said, stepping smoothly out of Diego's arms and into Marcus's. Diego stood frozen as Marcus swept Catalina away. She was smiling now, a real smile, laughing at something Marcus said. Her body relaxed in a way it never had with Diego. Jealousy hit him like a physical blow, hot and irrational and overwhelming. He watched them dance, watched Marcus lean close to whisper something that made Catalina laugh again, watched her look genuinely happy for the first time all evening. That should be me, he thought. She should smile like that with me. But he'd destroyed that possibility. Had spent 4 months teaching her that he didn't want her smiles, her laughter, her presence. And now someone else was receiving what he'd thrown away. The song ended. Marcus said something else that made Catalina blush. Diego's hands clenched into fists. He started toward them, intent on claiming his wife back, when Marcus leaned down and pressed a kiss to Catalina's hand. Something primitive and possessive roared through Diego. "Mine," his brain screamed. She's mine, but was she, really? Or was she just someone trapped by a contract, free to smile at whoever actually treated her with kindness? Catalina returned to their table, her expression cooler than before. "Ready to go soon?" "It's getting late." Diego couldn't speak, couldn't push words past the jealousy choking him. He just nodded. They said goodbyes to Sophia, congratulated the happy couple one more time, and headed to the car. The drive home was silent. Catalina stared out the window. Diego's mind spun with images of her laughing with Marcus, smiling with Marcus, being happy with someone who wasn't him. "He's always been a good dancer," Catalina said suddenly. "Marcus, we actually took some of the same classes years ago before I quit. You know him?" The words came out harder than intended. "We've met at a few events. He's nice. Actually asks questions and listens to the answers instead of treating people like inconvenient obstacles." The jab landed. "So you enjoyed dancing with him?" "I enjoyed being treated like a person, yes. Novel experience, and he was flirting with you." Catalina turned to stare at him. And you're married." She laughed, sharp and disbelieving. "Now you care? Now after 4 months of ignoring me, you suddenly remember I'm your wife? I've always known you're my wife. You've treated me like an unfortunate piece of furniture. But the moment another man pays attention to me, suddenly you're possessive? That's not fair, Diego. You don't get to have it both ways. I don't want him touching you. What you want stopped mattering 4 months ago." Her voice was ice. "You made it clear I was nothing to you. So if someone else wants to be kind, wants to make me smile, wants to actually see me, you have no right to object. I'm your husband. On paper, not in any way that matters." The words hit like bullets. Diego pulled the car over abruptly, shutting off the engine. They were on a quiet side road, trees surrounding them in darkness. "What are you doing?" Catalina demanded. "I can't drive when I'm this angry." "Angry? You're angry? I'm the one who's been abandoned for 4 months. I'm the one who's been treated like I don't exist. You have no right to be angry." "I'm angry at myself." Diego turned to face her. "I'm angry because you're right. About all of it. I've been a coward and a fool. And watching you smile at Marcus, seeing you happy with someone else, made me realize what I've thrown away. So this is about jealousy? About your ego being hurt because your rival paid attention to your neglected wife? It's about realizing I've been wrong. That I want to be the one who makes you smile like that. That I want to be worthy of your time and attention. Want doesn't mean anything, Diego. I wanted my husband to care about me. I wanted basic companionship. I wanted to matter. Wanting something doesn't make it happen. Then tell me how. Tell me what to do to fix this. You can't fix 4 months in one conversation. You can't make demands after ignoring me this long. And you definitely can't get jealous when you've done nothing to earn loyalty or affection." She reached for the door. "Take me home. I'm done with this conversation." "Catalina, wait." "No, I've waited enough. 4 months of waiting for you to notice me, to care, to try. I'm done waiting for you to decide I'm worth your time." Diego caught her hand before she could exit the car. "Please, just listen." She turned back, eyes bright with unshed tears. "What could you possibly say that would matter? That seeing you dance changed something in me. That these past weeks I've been watching you, really seeing you for the first time. That you're incredible, strong and passionate, and so much more than I ever imagined." Pretty words. But where were they 4 months ago? Where were they on our wedding night when you left me crying alone? Where were they every single day since then? I was scared, am scared. My whole life I've avoided feeling anything real because feelings meant pain. My parents destroyed each other with love. I swore I'd never let that happen to me. So you married someone and made sure to destroy her instead. That's your solution? The accusation was deserved. I'm trying to say I was wrong. That I want another chance. That I'm falling. Don't. She held up a hand. Don't you dare finish that sentence. You don't get to say those words after everything. They're meaningless coming from you right now. They're not meaningless. I'm falling for you, Catalina. The woman who dances with such emotion. The woman who found strength in the worst situation. The woman who deserves so much better than what I've given her. Tears spilled down her cheeks. You're 4 months too late. I gave you my heart on a silver platter. I tried everything to make you care, and you couldn't even be bothered to say goodnight. Now, just because another man showed interest, you suddenly want me? That's not love, Diego. That's just ego. It's not about Marcus. It's about finally seeing what was in front of me all along.